Greetings, mind crafters, and welcome to another exciting discussion. Today, my name is Kimberly Quinn, your hostess with the mostest, and I am thrilled to have a chat today about going from sort of moving from a place of pretty clear to super clear. And my inspiration today is Greg McKeown, who's the author of Essentialism, which we've talked about a little bit, and now we're going to take it, a step farther. If you're listeners who may have missed that, it's still going to make sense to you. Um, Clarity is just ultra, ultra important. So when Greg talks about, the work he's done with executives and businesses and, blah, 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 and when people are making the shift from pretty clear to really, really, really clear, he says he often starts with sort of asking them about mission statements or, whatever their strategies are. And he's surprised that people are often not clear. They'll like, I'm clear enough, I'm pretty clear. And obviously, this doesn't suffice, in the business world or in any world, actually. I'm thinking about, certainly in the professional world, they're all different you know, uh, institutions of that. So there's like sales and there's I'm in academia, colleges and universities, hospitals, retail, name, whatever, whatever, whatever. But mostly there's a mission statement, or they might call it something different. But the thing is, I'm definitely in agreement with him. I think it should be crystal clear, or sort of what's the point? I've never even really understood. I don't know, people don't even know what their mission statement is, to be truthful. Actually, at Champlain, we do. We actually talk about it, which is, not to go yay raw Champlain, but actually that is something we really actually do. Usually it's at this retreat thing that we have in the summer. Um, but I would say probably for the most part, this is true that people in general aren't that clear. And that to me isn't making a lot of sense, especially since we know for a fact that clarity, Greg specifically focused on the business world. Clarity has everything to do with how productive and how successful an employee is. They need to know what their goals are as individuals and as a group or department or division need to know where they're headed if they're going to be, have sort of like max productivity. And what goes on with max productivity, of course, is employee wellness levels and happiness, and clarity feeds into that as well. Because obviously, if they're feeling clear of what they're doing and focused, know what the goals is, there's less stress, less anxiety, because there's less ambiguity and questioning, which has people unsure, insecure. And that's obviously all the precursor stuff to all the you know anxiety, all the what if thinking, catastrophizing. What else? What if this goes wrong? Well, when you have all the ducks in the row, in the row, right? Then you know where you're headed. Stress and anxiety and stress are going to be much reduced, which then leads to that well-being and happiness level from the clarity leads to higher productivity, definitely creativity, and then obviously overall success of whatever it is professional institution we're talking about. So the main theme there is that clarity brings motivation, which often brings, carries along with it a sense of meaning and purpose, which we know are essential for human beings, well-being wise. And also without it, Greg talks about just the life minutes wasted. He phrases that differently, but basically, it's a big waste of time and energy because people, when they don't know what to do, are going to find stuff to do, and it's time wasted. And so, when people have sort of really good high level clarity, they're able to really create and innovate and come up with really big breakthroughs. That basically has everybody happy. Just saying. So Greg says that throughout his work, he's noticed that there are basically two really common patterns that often emerge when teams, groups, or whatever people lack clarity of purpose. And the first one he talks about this, like it's like playing the political game at work, right? So if people don't kind of know what they're supposed to do, then Basically, they start to make up their own rules and their own game, and they often kind of make this shift into uh, trying to impress the manager, I guess is just the short and quick way to say it, because they don't know what's going on. So people, since we have a sort of innate need to know what's going on, we kind of try to create it ourselves. So basically, it involves, I think, it makes a lot of kiss up to the manager, sort of regurgitating what they want to, what the rules are, what they want, what they're looking for, and often just doing a lot of stuff for optics, to showing up at things, or trying to just please, 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 and also trying to look better than fellow employees, their peers, and that doesn't, I don't think that really goes anywhere good. And since we're talking about essentialism versus non-essentialism, right? These, doing things for all this external approval, all the optics stuff and all the social comparison, that's all obviously all the ego, and obviously very non-essential. But not only is it non-essential, it can actually be, well, it's definitely counterproductive because it gets in the way of actually employee, creativity, innovation, and success. It also can be damaging to self-esteem and relationships, and ultimately, may end up in the job not working out. Found what I found super interesting about this part when Greg's talking about the political playing is that it also can wiggle itself into our relationships, our families and our friendships, because when we are unclear, about our real purpose as far as our own lives go, we don't have this, a clear sense of our own. This is obviously much deeper, a clear sense of our own values, goals, aspirations, dreams. Then we can find ourselves sort of navigating through or creating our own social games. And so we can also waste our life minutes or our time and energy, trying to look good in comparison to other people. And social comparison just doesn't go anywhere good. I've mentioned before, I did research on a little bit different topic because it was social media and the impact on well-being, specifically of college students that was for. But I did use a theory, because you have to have theories when you do research, and the social comparison theory was from the early 1950s by a fellow by the name of Leon Festinger. And basically, when we compare ourselves to other people, it's just a straight road to sad. You're not going to get happier that way, even if you compare to somebody who's you know, uh, not as good, not as well off as you are in whatever way, health wise, money wise, job wise, partner wise, family wise, whatever. We can get a little bit of an ego feel good fix when because that kind of boosts us up temporarily. But there's a half life for us, because then we're kind of realizing that we're feeling good about ourselves at someone else's expense, even if they don't know. And then it has like a half life. Then we take a hit to the self esteem. So it's not good. And so we can also get into um, placing a whole lot more value on the non-essentials, right? Like all the material stuff, the bank account, the square footage, the cars, how we look on whatever Facebook, platforms. I mean, I meant to say whatever social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, blah, 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 blah. So, and as a result, we often, are seduced, for lack of a better word, away from those things that are truly essential, which is obviously our relationships and spending time with our inner circle, our cabinet, those we love most, families and chosen families of origin, chosen families, the people who absolutely just feed our spirits, and who we just get tremendous joy from, and we bring joy to them, and also taking care of our own health. Then Greg talked about the second pattern as being, kind of this attitude of it's all good. He said, which is really bad. It's not all good, but it's about this it's all good sort of idea. And he talks about how when teams are don't have the clarity, they basically essentially they become leaderless. And so teams, similar to what we were saying with the first not so good pattern, is they start to kind of splinter off, and they may sort of kind of come up with their own like little mini goals, but none of it's kind of really, not that maybe you can't have success with one little thing, but basically in the big picture, it's all these little splintered off goals. It's not all good because it's not like a well greased machine kind of working together. And he uses an example of that that's kind of I can relate to because I'm in academia. He said it's kind of like a student pursuing 5 different majors, and, each one on its own would be great. It's like psychology, my personal favorite, education, chemistry, physics, law, whatever, and each of those on their own is super. You can go a fantastic direction, have a fantastic career slash calling with any one of those, but all 5 together, that's a that's absolutely overwhelming, and it just isn't gonna work to get 1 degree. 5 those 5 majors together on their own, great, but all 5 together doesn't equal a degree, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, and there is apparently an antidote for these 2 maladaptive patterns, which the first one is playing the political game, right? And the second one is having this attitude of it's all good, which is it's really not because it's people are splintering off, the teams are splintering off. So really, one thing we can do is kind of I guess sort of veer back to the whole concept of essentialism to begin with, which is to come up with an essential intent. And we in Minecraft we've talked a whole lot. These Minecraft podcasts we've talked a ton about the importance of intention, and so we're getting right back to this with deciding, what the essential intent is. And, Greg kind of explains that this is done by we're kind of discovering the essential intent by sort of discovering what it is not. So basically, in a nutshell, we want to stay away from, you know, the bland and also the general. What we're looking for is concrete and inspirational. And it's also both meaningful and measurable, he says also. So Greg's example is kind of like making some huge decision because it's one decision that makes 1,000 other ones later on, according to him. So his concrete example is kind of when you decide to become a doctor instead of a lawyer. That just it's kind I personally that has me thinking of branches of a tree, right? If you're going to go out on this branch, you choose to go out on this branch, which has all the little itty bitty branches all the way out. You just gave up the whole rest of the tree. You're not going to go down some other branch because you're already committed to that one. Now your choices are now involving the branches that are attached to the big branch you're now walking on. It makes really great sense if you think about it. One thing he discusses as sort of a tip is to stop with the mumbo jumbo with as far as wordsmithing something to death. I've definitely been in a lot of meetings, different places that do this. Up goes the white sheet or the flip chart, whatever it is, and then a million stickies land on it. And there's lots of intelligence in the room, tons of intelligence, tons of creativity. It's all getting splattered up there on the big white piece of paper, all the colorful little squares. But often it doesn't go anywhere. And so even though there's tons of intelligence and creativity, it's in the end, it's a bunch of sticky notes on a big white paper. And he talks about just to care a lot less about crafting some elegant, mini document or even, just, because it's not about like the sexy wording. It's about the substance. It's about the substance. So when it comes down to it, here's the question: if we as an institution or family, if it's that's what you're doing, or it's personal, if we have, as an institution or team, department, division, whatever, could be truly excellent at just one thing, what would that one thing be? This is sort of the guts of what it means to be an essentialist. What is that one thing? Does not have to be some big sexy phrase. Just kind of spit it out. And I would say just feel it. Don't think it to death. Like just what is it we want to accomplish here? So then the second part of it is kind of like what a researcher would say. And I've done a little bit of research, and it's kind of like, how do you know when you arrived? How do you know when you're done? And then Greg talks a lot about inspiration. Inspiration is absolutely important. And I think of Wayne Dyer talking about inspiration too. It means in spirit, just really, really important for innovation. And Greg talks about when there is a powerful, essential intention going on, this can be enormously inspiring for people because of the concreteness and the clarity. So when somebody asks how I know when I succeeded, well, the answer is ba 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 ba, which we're going to get to in a sec. And he uses a really cool example with with Brad Pitt. Way back when Hurricane Katrina hit down in New Orleans, lots of well-meaning, though very ambiguous goal setting, like we're gonna try to do this and try to do that. But none of it was all, again, all good-hearted, but it wasn't happening. And there were lots of people still in trouble. And so Brad Pitt apparently just drew a line in the sand, and he came up with an organization called Make It Right. And here's the intent. The essential intent was to build 150 affordable, green, storm resistant homes for families living in the lower ninth ward. That is crystal clear, just like we would do in the research world. There's no fluff in the research world. And you tease it and tweak it till you get it right, because we want it to be concrete and measurable, and that is exactly what this is. So, and then and it, I guess the statement just blew everybody away, and the concreteness is sort of what made it real. So, and the realness of the whole of Brad Pitt's efforts here, and the crystal clear phrase or statement, it did answer the question how we know we've succeeded, right? Because after you've built 150 affordable, green, um, you know, uh, homes for families in that particular neighborhood, well, it will be then that you succeeded. It totally makes a lot of sense. It's all about the essential intention, crystal clear with detail. And so lastly, it's just this living with intent. And we've talked about that so much in different episodes. This essential intention applies to so much more than, like a job description or title or anything like that. When one truly lives with essential intention, it's actually, part of our inner guidance system, I guess is the best way to say it, that sort of directs us to that greater sense of purpose on your authentic path. That's what it's about. Living with attention is absolutely huge, and sort of directs us to whatever our next step is. And that next step is something that will be in alignment with our inner being, our most authentic self, guiding us, continuing to guide us in a place that helps us to grow and brings us joy. And so lastly, Greg says that, really sort of creating your own, you're talking about creating your own mission statement is what we're talking about. If you're using this for personally. So creating an essential intention or intent can be difficult. It takes a ton of courage. It takes lots of internal work, because and insight, and also the sort of contemplation and the foresight to see which stuff has got to go. Because the essentialist is all about honing in on that one main big thing, right? And so, in order to get you to that place where you are, at that sort of in the flow, to be, for lack of a better way to say it, and at that point of sort of highest contribution. So, we are striving for clarity. Clarity is huge. Clarity guides us to our next move. And that's it. So I hope everyone works on and finds their essential intent today, or at least get started with it. And that's it. This is Kimberly Quinn signing off from the drizzly yet wonderful Northern Vermont. Have a mindful day.